Hello, everyone. Thanks so much for joining. My name is Denis, and welcome to another episode of Drumfills Cafe. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Before we begin, I would also appreciate it if you would check out the social media pages of Drumfills Cafe. That is the YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram pages. To do a like, a subscription, and of course, share those pages if you're so willing to do so. Would be really appreciative. Also, check out the main webpage, drumfillskafe.com. to check out all the past seasons, all the content we've created in these past 11 and now being this 12th season. There's a lot to check out. Go check it out, drumfillskafe.com. So tonight, my guest is a seasoned industry veteran who served as a marketing manager and Yamaha Drums Canada and international representative for over 30 years. Very cool. He's traveled the globe, worked closely with legendary drummers as Dave Weckl, Elton Jones, David Garibaldi, Manu Katché, Steve Jordan, Steve Gadd, and so many more. He's recently retired from his duties and here to share so many stories from his incredible journey. Please welcome Mr. Sean Browne. Hello, Sean.
Hey, Denis. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for joining. Thanks for joining Drumfills Cafe, man.
Thanks for having me.
So how you doing? Is it a nice day today for you? Is it a busy day? Is it a relaxed day since you retired?
It's no days relaxed because I'm starting a new project that's very intense, and I'm very excited about it. I wake up excited just like I did when I was working for Yamaha 30 days. I mean, I can't retire. I mean, I play tennis every day, try to take good care of myself, but yeah, I'm not bored. That's for sure.
A lot of people that I know, because I'm a certain age, and some of my family members are retired, and that's what they keep saying. They says I'm more busy than I was when I was working.
Well, when COVID started, I was really not busy. Matter of fact, I was sitting on my hands for almost 3 years because there was no international travel that could happen. It was quite a scary time because I was literally on a plane on my way to Vietnam and Korea and China and Japan, and they said, "Don't get on the plane."
Really? Wow.
And then 3 years later, and they kept me as busy as they could, and then they made me an offer I couldn't refuse, so I took the early retirement.
Okay. So that's what happened. Well, to go through all that, because I'm sure you have plenty of stories and tips and advices to share with all of us. Yes. How did you start? For you, I don't think you're actual. More of a, I think you're just a keyboardist or started. And I don't mean this midway, because trust me.
No.
Because an instrument I'd love to be better would be like piano, because I think most of us should start there. But talk to me a bit about your start of your musical journey.
Well, yeah, I have been playing drums since I was 7, so I've always loved playing drums, but I really didn't know anything about them. And I went to Humber College, and I got my, I was a music education as a keyboard major. And one day on the wall, I said, I saw a gig work for Yamaha and go and sell keyboards. And I was working at the Eaton Center in Yorkdale and all the big malls in Toronto. And I was 19 years old at the time.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Playing Frosty the Snowman for 12 hours in a leather tie and bad shoes. And then later on, they hired me to work for a little while part-time in their service department, where I was, picking parts orders and stuff like that. And I got to know it. And then one of the guys there, Geoff Taylor, who was taking care of the synthesizers, heard me play and then asked me if I'd like to be a clinician for synthesizers. So then I was touring out all over Ontario and out to the Atlantic Canada and doing shows for high-end synthesizers. Then they took all the synthesizers back, and then I went to work in retail for a little while. I just had my son was born, and my first son, and I was working in retail for a while, and obviously I knew the Yamaha. See, a salesman's always going to sell what he knows best. It happens that way. They feel comfortable making the presentation, and I was selling an awful lot of Yamaha, and that's when I got a call saying, "How come you haven't applied for the salesman job?" So I applied and got the job, and then I was a sales rep. That was 1993 till 1997. Now, in that period of time, I met Takashi Hagiwara, the man who invented Yamaha drums.
Okay, yes.
No question about it. And he really enjoyed Canada, and he was embraced by all the dealers and all of us. And I took him around quite a few places, and of course to Montreal Drum Fest and around dealers and clinic tours across the country, because he just took pictures of everything, because he was a sponge for information.
Okay.
Never played drums in his life, by the way.
Interesting.
Never.
Wow. Okay.
He is just a. He watches every single detail, and everything you see in every Yamaha drum piece of hardware is him inside.
Okay.
That.
Okay.
Maybe since 2007, there's a little piece of me in all that too, but I'm very
Okay.
excited to say. So anyways, Hagi told my boss at that time, you need a guy who's just focused on drums.
Yep.
And so they said, you're no longer a rep. They brought me inside. Then for that many years, until 2015, I was just toodalooing right across the country 8-9 times a year, every drum fest, every festival, and dealer trainings. And there's over, so many really cool drum shops in this country, and so many amazingly cool friends that I will have for life. And then when they started allowing us to start bringing groups of the Canadians over to Japan, we started bringing them to Sakai Rhythm, which was the factory they had in Japan, where Recording Custom was born, where all the, Maple Custom and all that stuff. And, I got to really get an intimate look at what was going on with the factory. I'd been there so many times that Hagi even would ask me to come over to be the tour guide for American and European visitors. I guess they like the Canadian non-accent,
I see. Okay.
Like, when Hagi, you put him in a room with an Australian or a Scotsman, he has no idea what they're saying.
I think we speak for me anyway. I have to go, what? Excuse me? Having spent some time in Scotland, I was like, what? Excuse me? Yeah. So, okay.
You gotta hear it, man. But so anyways, that happened. And then when he retired in 2004,
okay.
We were all, a little bit lost, because he was the boss, and he was a tough boss, very tough man. And his vision, it was his child we were taking care of at this point, right? And so we were getting together as a group, and Wolfgang in Germany and Europe, and Gavin and the American group, Dave Jewell and excuse me. So we were getting together as like a United Nations and decide, where are we going from here? What is the next vision? What is the next thing that we want to do?
So you kind of took over, if you will, from Hagi.
Not well. I, in a technical way, just because I was touring and doing training in countries that didn't have a drum specialist, right? Because most of them don't. If you go into Southeast Asia, or you go down to South America or Russia, they didn't have anybody who's a specialist. And think about how tough it is to be a Yamaha salesperson. You're selling PA, guitars, synthesizers, software, drums, hardware, so many, some of them even pianos and band instruments. Like, you have to know something you're talking about with all those instrument groups. It's a very tough job, especially high-end digital recording equipment and that kind of stuff. Like, I was like,
Yeah.
So that being said, so none of them really understand. If you don't understand drums, or you can't speak drums to a drummer, someone goes, well, do you have a 14x10? Yeah. What's that? What do you mean you don't know what that is? So, you want people to understand, Yamaha is not cheap. It's very, premium products. And so when you're trying to sell premium products to somebody, you better know what you're talking about. And so anyways, I would go around and I would train people about it, make them understand what Hagi's vision was, why he did this, why he did that, why is it more expensive, why are, what's the limitations, and excuse me. So that was kind of my job in part of when you're saying replacing Hagi, but nobody can replace the father of Yamaha drums. I just kind of worked as, what they called me was the evangelist. That was
preacher.
Kind of yeah. So anyway, so as a group, we would get together in Japan and we would discuss, or we would, look at prototypes, or we would look at, the variables to try to make sure, because you have to try to make an instrument that can't just sell in the United States and Canada, or, it has to be affordable in other countries. And think about it, a Maple Custom or an Absolute kit or something in Egypt is more expensive than a house.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Plus, there's
Crazy.
a lot of those countries too. There's everybody wants a layer when you're importing to those countries, and so all
Oh,
the
I see.
subsidiaries need to
Okay.
watch. So you have to price something so it sort of works as globally as possible in
Okay.
order to make the amount of quantities that you need in order to make it profitable. Because at the end of the day, Yamaha is a public company, and it has a responsibility to deliver to its shareholders. So it was just so much fun, getting together with these cats and building drums and looking at drums and touching drums and understanding the marketplace and understanding the customers. It was just it was a dream job, absolutely a dream job. I don't think I actually worked one single day.
Ah, there you go. They do say that, try to find something you do love and you won't work a single day of your life. Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
I
Yeah.
don't know how I fell into it, man, but I got lucky, and I count my blessings every day for that opportunity. Young kids come up to me at clinics and all, and goes, "How do I get a job like your job?" I get to hang around with Dave Weckl for 10 days. And let me tell you, hanging around with Dave Weckl for 10 days is not as much fun as that sounds. Man,
Yeah, there's a lot of work
he,
involved. Yeah.
he is a very serious dude about his
Mm,
sound and his
mm,
gear. And he's the Dave Weckl before the show and the Dave Weckl after the show. And this goes with a lot of ours, is a completely different human being.
yeah.
And once you know that and understand that, that's another thing that Japan, I had so many relationships with all these cats, with Akira Jimbo and Tommy Aldridge and these guys, that I could take them to these countries where they don't have a drum guy
Mm.
and kind of be the buffer, the punching bag in case anything
Oh,
was
I see.
wrong,
I
right?
see. Yeah, I see. I see what you mean. So that the
So,
artist doesn't have to deal with whatever's.
he can yell at me all he wants.
Oh, you've
Nope.
touched on a lot of subjects. I don't want to stop because okay. So first question, yes, the thing that always impressed me by Yamaha. Let's talk about
Yeah,
Yamaha as a general
sure.
company. Is the amount of product that is being made, and we're not just talking musical. I mean, I've had a Yamaha motorcycle,
Mm-hmm.
and they're great. They're amazing. This thing from the '80s I bought would not die.
Yeah.
That I bought in the 2000s.
And RZ.
It was a Seca
Oh, okay.
XJ900, a rare bike actually, because
Okay.
they didn't
Kind of
make it
dirt bike.
much here in Canada.
Right.
Uh, and as you touched, the recording stuff, the PAs, the keyboards, the drums.
Yeah.
How did they do it? I don't know if you could answer this question, but I've always wondered, how did they do it to make such high-end quality products in all different categories? That's always been fascinating to me. I don't know if you have some sort of answer or
I have
philosophy you could share.
I have a perfect answer. I have the answer, actually. See, Yamaha decided a long time ago that they just wanted to make leisure products. They don't want to make anything that you need. They want to
Okay.
make the things that create what's called kando, the things that you think about that you can't wait to get home to be with, whether it be your
Hmm.
stereo or your motorcycle or your sled or your horn or whatever it is, like the leisure.
Hmm.
Because in tough times, people rely on the things that give them pleasure.
Hmm.
Even if the economy is horrible, maybe you won't buy the $25,000 drum set, but you might get the $400 one, and you'll look forward to it every single day. So
Hmm.
people think about their leisure, and they'll not eat before they can at least have some fun, in their lives, enjoying their television system or whatever it is that they have. Excuse me. So this long, when the first organ was made in 1887 and they brought it over to the United States, and all these small churches that didn't have any electricity, so they all had to run by pump action. And it said Yamaha on it, and people loved them, and they were selling a lot of them because this Mr. Yamaha at that time figured, they're made so flimsily, so he made it excellent. He made it so it
Hmm.
wouldn't break.
Hmm.
And that got a great reputation with all the churches and public areas like that. So it became huge. And then about 20 years later, they decided to look at pianos, and they investigated German pianos and Italian pianos and American pianos, and took it apart, and then came back with a really good solid piano. And
Hmm.
they made sure too that they really made sure that it would be able to handle the humidity. Anyway, so that's going way back to them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Year after year, they just added small things, looking at trend, growing their business, and they Portatone, little keyboards that you could play with the speakers built in. It seemed like a great idea at the time. They exploded in the 80s.
Hmm.
Even you used to see TV commercials with them. Um,
Okay.
so during the war, there wasn't a lot of need for pianos and organs. So what happened at that point is they started taking all these great workers with wood, and they started making propellers for Zeros. They started making small engines, small motors, because they had defined and made a very good quality control system for how manufacturing should work. Right? And remember, this is before China, Korea, any of those countries could even touch what was going on with technology oriented in Japan. Yeah. So they started making stereos, and in rock and roll in 1965, they're like, well, maybe these guitars and drums are going to be big, So they went into those directions, and at the same time, they had already started during the war creating all these motors. So they separated the two companies, the sister company. So if you see Yamaha written in red, that's the motors division. If you see Yamaha written in purple, that's the music division. If you're ever driving by a building or whatever. So they run them as two completely separate companies. And in the 80s, they incorporated from Nippon Gaki, which means Japan factory, to a public company. But they have two separate companies, motors and music completely separately. However, there is the benefit of the relationship. When Hagi moved the acoustic drums manufacturing to Indonesia, he went and contacted the motors division, got them to make our hardware for us. So when I hear a guy goes, why would I want to buy a drum kit from a company that makes motorcycles? I say, why wouldn't you? All of their finishes have been made to take dust and snow and punishment and sand and weather, and those influences, because the company is so diverse that they have all these other influences and can work together through all the various different sections of the company. For instance, Recording Custom was born from using piano finishes on birch.
Okay, interesting.
So we have a piano organization that makes a very special high-end polyurethane that won't crack and check like all the other drum companies lacquers were doing it. You put it into a cold car, you take it out, click, click, dead.
Yeah.
So, Hagi took all the benefits of the motors division designers and the people who work with wood in the piano division, and he's had the perfect storm.
Interesting. So so basically they could go to their own company to find solutions to whatever problems or whatever improvement they could do for the musical aspect.
Exactly. And they're very attentive to trends in the marketplace. This is looking very popular. This is going in a really cool direction, and we'll see with stereo systems, with surround sound systems, with modular systems that play different music in every single room in your house. Like they're constantly trying to improve, and they will never be apologetic about it. And
exactly,
they make beautiful instruments at every level and pretty much for every price point.
Yeah, interesting.
So and we're sold. There's 55 subsidiaries. So in all these different countries, there's their own distribution. So they don't go through. Well, in some countries they go through separate distribution because it's just too difficult to open up an organization there. But in most countries, they have their own distribution. So they not only manufacture, they also distribute, and they also sell. So it's kind of like the perfect sphere of their organization. But although with COVID, sorry, I'm getting a little bit off topic.
No, go ahead.
The instrument business went up 18% because people were now sitting at home and going, I want a new one, or I'm finally going to practice, or I'm finally going to rent. So there wasn't enough musical instruments in the pipeline, because now all the small factories, even the factories that make that little tiny screw, were down to half their people that could work in their room. And then the shipping costs were going through the roof. And so nobody was prepared for something like that.
Yeah.
Even, it was really hard to get hold of any inventory to supply all these people who were finally deciding to get back into music. I don't know where they are now, because you see the amount of used equipment on all the various marketplace sites. It's out of control.
Yeah. Well, I have a few drum kits as a drummer, of course, and I got my first Yamaha during COVID because I just fell in love with a kit, and I couldn't resist it, and I didn't need it, but I saw it, and then ever since I've used it, every time I've used it, people are like, "Oh my God, what is that? That sounds amazing!" And So
if you have a chance to know the difference, I mean, that's the hardest thing. It's, Yamaha has always, the first focus is sound. They're not going to come up with purple polka dots or dragons with naked ladies riding them. They're not going to, there's no skulls. It's going to be pretty much, a standard even keel on the finish offerings, which is usually most people's argument about it, but they're all about sound.
yeah.
And every drum they come out with has a completely unique sound from another. They don't want to cross over and that kind of thing. This is something that's also inspiring to work for a company like this. And I heard a lot of things way before any human beings heard them, even before artists heard it.
Okay.
Right.
Well,
and
that's okay. Well, okay. There's a lot to dig here.
Yeah. Like I said, I could talk for hours.
I know, but that's why I want to sort of because
Okay.
I know we could do like 3 episodes of this stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, I will just conclude to that little bubble we just talked about. Yes, the quality is there. I'll say it. I'm a Pearl fan because when I was a kid, Tommy Lee, Greg Bissonette,
Absolutely.
Omar was all playing the Pearl stuff, and I love it, all that stuff. And I still have a Pearl kit, love it, all that stuff. I love all drums. I think I'm a drummer. So, but
Absolutely.
then the kit I bought was a Live Oak hybrid custom.
Oh, you got one of those.
Yeah.
And the emerald?
For the sunburst black, going from that color to the black, and it was one of those moments where somebody was like, "Oh, I'm in COVID, I'm getting rid of it because I'm not using it. Blah, blah, blah. I'll grab it, I'll try it." And yes, the hardware is excellent. It just works. The hardware just works. Other companies I won't name because but for me, some companies it's like, "Oh, that broke again. Damn it!" Like, okay, it never happened to me so far on the Yamaha. Super cool. The system to put the toms super easy, the finishes, the hardware, everything, love it. And I just had good compliments over it. And one of my teachers, Paul Brochu, is a Yamaha, of course, user, and he's also praised them for long. So yes, I understand. So I will say with you, yes, the quality is definitely there for sure. So I want to reiterate that, if you will.
Well, there's also the issue of how good is too good, and what do people really need, and sometimes, we see a lot of other companies will lower the level of their quality so that they can have more finishes and sell more drums because they're cheaper. The argument for live custom oak, because oak was released in 2002 as a material. And when it first came out, it was and people knew what oak was. Nobody knew what beech was. Beech, like beechwood, like off the beach.
Well, that's what it sounds like. But yes, I'm sure that's not the case. But yeah,
people know oak is big and strong, and love or hate that sound. It's very, very loud and very, very powerful.
Yes.
And so when they released, with oak, the problem with oak was that the actual material started getting very expensive, and the supplier went bankrupt. So they had to quickly scramble, and that's when they came with the second generation with oak that came from northern Japan.
Okay.
And so when they moved to the new Yamaha facility in China, which is called Shaoshan Yamaha, the very first series of drums they made were the ones that you have, the live custom oak. Okay. And they're like thunderous. They were too good to be true, right? And the black chrome and all the good stuff there, and some very cool finishes, and they just beautiful grains. And we had to make sure, you're moving to China, people are going to expect that it's going to be junk, or it's going to, that's the natural assumption.
Yes.
And instead they went the other way. This is another idea with Hagi. When he released drum, he said, why do I want to copy everybody else and have another kit for $699? Forget it. Let's make recorded custom. Let's make the drum that every other drum wishes it was back in 1982, although it was technically released as 9000 series back in 1977. So, it created a sound and created a buzz in New York in the recording with Rick Marotta and Gad and all that.
Exactly. Yeah.
Russ Kunkel, those heavy cats, man, recording 3 albums a day. And the studio, the the drum sets just didn't quit. Get an instant sound out of them. So that's Hoggy, there's a strategy. You go with low price, try to create a lot. But the idea here is, would you rather see a $500,000 Kia or a $40,000 Ferrari? You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying anything bad about Kia cars, but they're known to be very affordable.
Yes.
If they came out with one that was worth $500 million, you would not be rushing to see that, because you're like, okay, well, I'm never going to buy one anyways. But if you saw a Ferrari that was only 40,000, because that brand, you might go check it out.
No, yeah, for sure. Yes.
You know what I mean? Because it had already created the equity of being a high-end drum, and that sprinkles down on something that's deserved of looking out and getting an evaluation.
Well, getting to, and talking, we'll do this bubble talking about the product, and you're touching on a lot of things that I think is very cool. Is that when you get to the stage custom stuff, a lot of the stuff that's from the high end has come down from the high end to the stage custom. Am I right by saying?
Well, absolutely. No, it's then this is almost like a formula with Yamaha, is to take parts of the more premium and bring it down and scale it down and try a different thing. And when Hoggy, we bought Premier, I keep saying Yamaha bought Premier drums in 1990, right?
I did not know that. I did not know that, because the other kits, that's why I say I love drums, because I have a Yamaha, I have a Pearl, and I have a Premier
APK,
XPK,
yeah,
blue fusion sizes downstairs, and I have not seen them many a times, and I'm resisting from selling it because I don't know, but I'll let you talk. Sorry. Okay.
No worries. So Hoggy convinced Yamaha to buy the British factory of Premier to make the Power V series, because we were expecting that Power V was going to be, they already had a beautiful facility there, great, team of people at Premier, great history, although they have beer for breakfast.
We'll get to the story soon.
And so they made that, and like quite quickly they realized that it was not feasible. During this particular time, Hoggy was already investigating looking at opening up in Indonesia, because we already had a guitar factory there. We already had a band instrument, motorcycle hardware factory. So his idea was, let's put it all together and then come out with what would eventually become Stage Custom, the very first series out of Indonesia.
Okay.
And the finishes were not, they were a little bit orange peely. And they were, simply Philippine mahogany, and they use an interior of falcata, which was an indigenous wood, because you want to try to find as much material that is already in Indonesia. Unfortunately, there's no birch or maple in Indonesia, so you have to, and there's no wrap, so you have to ship all that there. That's another story. So that's what you'll notice with your XPK and APK, that a lot of the hardware looks like Yamaha hardware from the 80s, because Hoggy just gave them all the molds.
Okay.
So they already had them that stuff. So that went on, and then eventually they left, and the Wharfdale Speaker Company actually purchased Premier after that particular sequence. Okay. So going back to Stage Custom, exactly. He wanted it to look like Recording Custom with the long high tension lugs. He wanted it to be lacquer finishes, no wraps. He wanted a cool little gold badge. Excuse me again.
Okay.
And he wanted all the Yamaha mounts. He wanted the good, he wanted it to look as much like a Yamaha. It was still pretty expensive for an entry-level drum set, but a very good sounding set. So you see the trend against going there, because Stage Custom now is still one of the best-selling drum sets on the planet.
And affordable too. I think I saw a couple for like maybe $1,000 or $900 recently. I think So and the finishes are nice. Yeah,
professional level hardware. It'll last you forever. Now that kit is a high-end kit in Africa, or a high-end kit in that's expensive. You have a Stage Custom, it's like having a Cadillac in those countries. So really only like churches seem to be the only people who have any money in those countries, so they all buy them, and they're great. And they say they've gone through a lot of changes over the years. Some of them say really bad changes, other of them say really good changes. Some people didn't like the fiber reinforced lugs that they came out. We call them plastic, but they were like AFRP material, and those were the best sounding Stage Customs, in my opinion, ever. And, you had a lot of choices. It wasn't just sort of like you can only buy a 5-piece kit. You could get an 8, 10, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 18 floor tom.
Yeah.
You could make a monster kit.
Yeah.
And that's, hence the idea of like custom. Not like the drums were custom, but Hoggy liked the word custom because you can make and configure the drum set you want.
The way you want it. Very cool. So yeah, so you were talking about the fact that you have helped, if you will, sort of start to finish. So talk to me about quickly. We'll do this last product part of okay. We have this idea. We want to conceive it, and in terms of time wise and trials and errors, because you just touched on the things I've seen and hasn't come out. Just talk to me a bit about that area of drum making that people are not aware of.
Okay. Well, we have some of the greatest design minds in Yamaha, and, they are moved from division to division because they have, degrees in physics. They have degrees in metallurgy. They are really serious cats.
Okay.
So when a particular fellow whose name is Browne Abe, and he discovered what I have always called the hypercore concept with Phoenix. So the only drum that's made in Japan still is the Phoenix series. I'm sure you've heard of it.
Yes.
And Paul Brochu has one. He had the first one in Canada, as a matter of fact.
I think I saw the publicity, the promo some time ago, but I think it was White Kid. I don't remember, but I do remember something about that. Yes.
There's a video online you got to see of him and Larnell and Mark Kelso with their Phoenix kits playing together. So mind blowing. Anyways, so what he discovered was that the center of the shell, if it's super hard and then you use softer woods as you get towards the interior and exterior of the shell, resonates. So like if you think of a guitar string, say an E string. Now, if it was just solid metal, you would pluck it and go click, click. But because it's wrapped with soft metal, it vibrates. Vibration is tone and sound. So they liked calling it the hybrid, the most overused word on the planet, hybrid shell. Really, we always used hybrid shell because we always had combinations of mahogany and birch or various different mixes of woods being used, mostly because you wanted to put birch on the outside because it's so beautiful. Right. But if you make the whole...
In terms of attack,
I'm sorry?
In terms of attack for the birch, I'm just curious.
If you can't afford to make a kit that's all completely made out of birch, because birch is another thing too. It's a very controlled sound. It's not very loud. Mahogany blows it out of the water for volume. So if you're looking for something for volume and attack, mahogany would be a good suggestion. Birch just has a beautiful tone, a beautiful note. And another thing, in a solid wood, as the drum ages and gets played more on a molecular level, all the little air bubbles in that are it gets better sounding, just like an acoustic guitar with a solid top. It's better sounding the more you play and more it resonates.
Okay.
So hybrid shells tend to not do this because it's not, it's variable materials. So this guy, Browne Abe, discovered this. And if you'll see now, that super, hard Jatoba being surrounded by Kapoor, being surrounded by maple, was just, we all heard that long before the market came out, and none of us could believe it.
Okay.
Like that drum ate your face. And I said, well, now that, Hoggy is gone, we have to have the ultimate drum. We want to make something by which can never be, not could be compared.
Okay.
So you can talk about finish all day long, or you can talk about various tone and sound. But I've given Phoenix to jazz players and they've handed it back when it's too ferocious. In terms of it's too much sound. It's too big. It's blowing everybody off the stage.
Okay.
I'm getting complaints. Right?
Okay.
Well, why don't you just play choir? Goes, I play the way I play, man, and like I have to change my playing to play these drums. It's like that's not right. I mean, okay, no, I get it. They're just so massive. Okay. So that same idea, we tried various different formulas. So now you'll see the absolute hybrid maple. That uses the same idea of the Wengi inside of a maple shell. That hard center, the hypercore, creates vibration. And with live custom hybrid oak, same idea, except now it's a phalonic because it's hard to find a material that's more dense than oak.
Oak is pretty strong, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So the center material has to be more dense than the others. So this discovery by Mr. Abe, we started applying it to all kinds of other drums. So you're seeing something comes down from the super end and it comes down and gets put into the standard series. How good does Stage Custom or Rydeen series have to sound? you know, because the people playing them probably really don't know the difference. And, you know, they want something that's good and that projects, but, you know, they don't play with bands. They don't understand about projection. There's a lot of drum sets you can play from all kinds of manufacturers. And when you're sitting at them, you can't believe how great they sound. And then when you're playing, people in the audience go, I can't hear your drums, man. They have no projection. So if you're trying to sell a drum set to somebody who's playing it in a store and they're like, this sounds awesome. And then you get there and the band's like, can you turn your drums up, please? I can't hear it. They got no projection. And that's another thing that the Hypercore completely looked at. So, you know, small things like when we wanted to change recording custom, for instance, okay, we didn't want to, but we were moving it to a new factory. Well, we felt that the only person in the world who's qualified to make any changes to recording custom, and by the way, this cost us a couple of artists, but I won't go there, was Steve Gadd. And so Steve Gadd, we said, what would you change? Well, let's go with coated heads instead of the pinstripes we used to use. Okay. Let's try to put some more weight on it. Because, you know, he puts a 50-kilo weight inside his kick drums. Yeah.
So it doesn't move, or just for the sound? Or?
For the sound, because he feels that more weight changes the way that it responds and lowers the fundamental of the drum. So we said, well, what do we do? I know. We'll put the weight on the outside. So we'll make the lugs heavier so they'll add the weight on the outside. And when he played it, he went, absolutely, guys, this is it. You know, so made some small changes that really we felt only he. Because if you try to involve 30 artists into changing something, it's like trying to herd cats.
Too many cooks, a lot of cooks in the kitchen, yeah.
So they made that decision, and he's, you know, always up for giving his opinion, and he's, you know, really intelligent man, but he knows what he likes to hear. Yeah. And so if we figured if he likes it, that is. I mean, I'll tell you a little story about Steve Gadd.
Go ahead.
I was on stage with him at a Paul Simon concert. I guess it was from 1998, and his drum set was there on the stage at Massey Hall. His drum head was his snare drum head and his were dirty black because he didn't like changing drum heads. His sticks had a perfect line around the middle. They had been used already. He doesn't use fresh ones. There was a perfect line. Like, he doesn't deviate at all when he uses a rim shot. He's exactly the same place. I'm not kidding you. It was probably less than 2 millimeters wide. Okay. But his brushes, though, he looked like he tried to kill somebody with them.
Okay.
So he smashes the drums with the brushes, but he taps and hits quite lightly. So I get on the kit. He goes, and I'm with his tech, and I'm taking some photos. I get on his kit. I couldn't believe how horrible it sounded. It was like, and the big kick drum was, he had both this much play in his pedal. Like, I couldn't even get a sound out of it because I'm, you know, not a good drummer, but it was so alien to me. I said, I give up. I sat in the front row for the show. Best sounding drum set I ever heard in my entire life.
Yeah.
So is it about the drums? Is it about projection? Definitely it's about the player. But, you know, so anyways, I learned a lot about the way drums go out front and what the drummer knows and what the drummer hears coming out of the back of the auditorium that they're playing on is how comfortable they're going to be with playing. So I hope that answered your question.
That was a long-winded question, but it does answer the question. Yes. So a few things. Thank you, Sean. That was amazing. So yes, met Steve Gadd. Had a chance to meet Steve Gadd. He came to Montreal to do Cosa with Aldo. Yeah, nicest man ever. And his whole hour and a half was about sound. It was all about sound. It wasn't like I played this fill. People were like, "Oh, when you played that fill," he's like, "Yeah, I played that." But you know, I'm trying to get this dynamic, and he was all about sound. He was all talking about sound. So it just goes to reiterate what you were talking about when we talk about the concert. And
he had on his kit too. Sorry, quickly, he had 3 bandanas, 3 of them. So for some kits, he would put 1 bandana and he would put it over top of the snare drum. For another one, he would put 2 bandanas, and another one he would put 3 bandanas.
Interesting.
You know, like he put layers of a bandana on top of the snare drum for the exact sound that he wanted to get, because he doesn't really change his snare drums during the show. Not like Steve Jordan, who's got a box with 13 snare drums beside him every time he plays a gig. Okay. That must be, you know, a drum tech's nightmare, but you know.
And the other thing I want to say is that, the recording custom, I mean, they're pretty much associated with Gadd. He kind of, am I believe to say that he's the one that maybe, popularized him so much, because
You and
he's
every
used
drummer
them.
who's a Yamaha fan on the
Yeah.
planet. I mean,
Yeah.
at least if they're over 50.
Yeah, well, I'm
You know
not
what I
there
mean?
yet,
Like,
but I'm getting there.
yeah.
Exactly. Cool, very nice. Well, okay, let's get to the stories. You were talking about Steve Jordan is my other favorite. Steve,
Oof.
I mean, Steve and Manu. I'm a groove
Yeah.
fanatic things, because I think groove, and now we're setting aside from the drum, but I think groove is just so inside of us. You can't reproduce.
You can't teach it to
You
someone
can't
either.
teach it. You can't
It's
reproduce
in you
it.
or it's not in you.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
we could all try to be Bonham, but I don't have that super back at the last second backbeat like Bonham would do. I feel so like,
That was the vodka. No, just no.
Oh.
Oh.
Yeah, fish.
No, but Steve plays behind the beat. Steve plays kind of lazy. He's never really up top.
He's never up
and that's
on top.
that's why bass players love playing with him, because he's like just sits like a wave.
Yeah. There's space, and it's not. There's no rushing. We're not talking Stuart Copeland. We're very much the opposite of that. And Jordan is the other one that just has a groove.
Yeah.
I mean, I just listen to him, and it's just like there's a record he did with Keith Richards that I have that I just
Expensive
listened to.
Winos. Yeah.
And I just I know, of course, he's become the Rolling Stones one, but
yeah,
the groove he plays on that, and it's like that. And same thing with John Mayer. So it's like, holy crap, So I'm fascinated by groove, because that's not something you can learn or teach. So you've got many players that you've crossed over the years, Weckl, Jordan, Gad, all these people, David Garibaldi, another one. So talk to me about, helping them and going to help them to with the drum setups, to festivals, all that stuff, and the interaction with these artists, for instance.
And that's a good one. Let's start with Steve. Steve always loves simplicity.
We're talking about
Steve Jordan. Steve Jordan.
Okay.
He loves simplicity. He loves vintage gear, simple. He loves Yamaha hardware, but he never actually signed a contract with Yamaha.
Interesting.
Right.
Okay.
It was a friendly relationship with Hoggy, and he would be seen playing old Rogers kits or old Gretsch kits or old Ludwig kits, and because he was looking for a specific sound. And Yamaha, it's a very sophisticated company with very sophisticated sound. Right. So they, and he was looking for some simplicity. So there's certain things that we made, like he didn't have a 13. He wanted a 13. He liked to use the wood hoops on it. He loved the Daxstad, the most odd instrument ever made, the 22-inch deep, 12-inch kick drum. You saw that thing?
Oh, yes. I think I've played that once. Right? Yes, at a jazz gig. Yeah.
So, he bought two of them, because he just loved it so much. And it was completely unique. He likes very unique things. He doesn't... and he's very simple. He was kind of the inspiration for Hoggy to make the cocktail kit, the remade cocktail kit.
Right.
And anyway, so one day we just came out with a series in Canada called the Definitive. I don't know if you've ever heard of this, but it was a wrapped version of maple. Okay, so it was using a lower grade maple. There are three grades. There's an outer ply, there's an inner ply, which could be ugly because you're never going to see it. It's covered in glue and in the inside of a drum. And then the inner ply, which most people aren't going to see either. So you have to grade it because maple can be very inconsistent. And if even like slightly more brown or slightly lighter, you paint two drums red, they'll be night and day.
Really interesting.
Right. So just the hue of the wood itself can wipe out the consistency of the look of the drums. Anyway, so we came up with a series called Definitive. I get a call from Steve goes, Sean, I'm coming up tomorrow for a session at the Phase One Studios. I'm like, well, Steve, why don't you just call me tomorrow? I mean, look, really? Tomorrow you're coming to Toronto to do a session? He goes, yeah. With Herbie. And I went, oh, Herbie Hancock? That is wicked cool. Okay. He goes, what can you get me for drums? I go, I didn't have a lot of sample stuff, and it was a Friday. I couldn't get into the warehouse on the Saturday. I'm like, we've got this new drum. It's called Definitive. He goes, what's that? I go, it's kind of like a vintage. He goes, you had me at vintage. So what they did was what Hoggy did with his line, he made a 60-degree bearing edge on it, and he put a wrap on it. So it was a little more tubby sounding, but it had that warmth.
Yeah.
And so I I said, it's all like different colors. Like, Sean, it's a recording session. Who cares? He goes, can you also get me the Paistes that I need? I go, yeah, I've got this traditional. Yeah, I got this. He goes, perfect, man, perfect. So I show up the next day and I'm setting up the kit. I got a white tom, I got a blue bass drum, I got a purple, whatever. The whole kit looks like a dog's breakfast, but it's set together. And his drum tech came in. He goes, oh, we can work with this. And I'm just looking at this thing, and then all of a sudden I see the video crew walking in.
Oh,
I'm so
he didn't
fired.
tell you about that. He didn't tell you about that. Okay, this is getting good.
Okay, so then I turn around and there's Sting is standing right there.
No way.
He goes, hi. He goes, hi, I'm Sting. I went, no.
Hi, I'm Sean.
Who? I'm like, oh my gosh, man, nice to meet you. He goes, yeah, we got a recording session today with Herbie, and then I watched John Patitucci's coming in, Luis Conte's coming in. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm in a Hall of Fame gig going on here, right? Sure. Steve walks in, and I'll be in all Steve, and two was like cool as a cucumber, man, just so cool. And I guess I can't believe this day, but I can't hang out. And he goes, Sean, I love it. That's great. And I, immediately, let Joe Testa, who was the artist relations guy, to stay. So if there's any pictures of this kit, man, like it was last minute. Like I wasn't told there was going to be. And I think he had that kit on the front of a Modern Drummer, man. It was just really? Anyways, that was quite an experience. And I remember, I go, so Sting, how you doing, man? He goes, it's good. I go spend 3 days in Miami. I have no idea what I'm going to do with myself. And I said, well, besides flying the space shuttle, I can't think of much you couldn't do. Don't know what I'm going to do with myself. Oh my God. Anyways, that was a starstruck day here in Toronto, out of nowhere in the middle of the fall. So Steve, cut the gig. That they were doing, as it turns out, Herbie got Sting to sing on a Herbie's CD, and then Sting got Herbie to play on Sting's CD. So they were actually doing two different projects at the same time for each other. And Toronto was just the perfect place to coordinate it.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. Oh, wow.
So, and I saw that CD at a Starbucks. If you ever find it, My Funny Valentine with Sting singing. That's Herbie playing the piano, and that was recorded at Phase 1 in Toronto. So,
okay, cool. Interesting. Wow. Well, thank you for helping out Steve for that recording. That's amazing.
Yeah. It's kind of it's not optional for us Yamaha guys. When an artist needs us, we got to be there. And if you aren't, then that's basically the way that artist will treat you, because Steve calls me when he comes to town. You want backstage passes, and I don't have to call him anymore because I helped him out of a jam.
Yeah,
and he's an amazing guy, and it's absolutely not surprising to me at all that he got the Rolling Stones gig with his relationship with Keith.
Yeah, no, exactly.
And he's worked with him a long time, and that's good on him. The fact that he kept Charlie's sound with the Gretsch kit, I totally respect it. I totally get it. Don't mess with it.
Mm-hmm. No, because again, groove can't be taught. Charlie had that. He had that thing, and Steve is close to that. He has that sort of similar, not the very same, but similar feel to it. Yeah, interesting.
Yeah, well, he can sound like anything he wants to, really. But anyways, that's the Steve Jordan, my favorite Steve Jordan story. Anyway,
but you touched upon something which is the point of your day-to-day job, which is to represent the artist and help out the artist. Talk to me about the everyday, basically, of what you did for 30 years.
Okay, well, first of all, you have to bring people's heroes to their cities, and you want to try to be fair to all the dealers, because if you always run one clinic with one dealer in Montreal, for instance, right, and the other dealer gets upset, and then you end up costing. You have to be very political and thinking, I got to make sure I deal with Ital, I got to make sure I deal with Dave's Drum Shop, I got to make sure I deal with Steve's, I got to, in all these cities, you got to make sure that you're fair and that you're going to get the best result, because the dealer ends up becoming your partner. They're the promotion. They're the people who are dealing with the dealer. They're arranging the facility. They're arranging the PAs and the sound man and the links. All I have to do is get the gear there and get the artist there safely.
Okay, I see.
Okay, but as Yamaha, the dealer's the most important person, The artist is the second most important person. The consumer is the third one. If they're happy, everything's good. If we're unhappy, it doesn't matter.
But we'll take Montreal Drum Fest, which you're probably displaying a T-shirt from '95, which was my first Drum Fest.
Yes, sir.
So we salute all Drum Fest lovers
Vive
out
la
there.
Montréal.
Yes, oui, effectivement. Should we done this in French? But anyways, we started already in English. Désolé. Take me through for like a day at the Drum Fest, for instance. Like you're
okay.
In a succinct way, because I know you could go on for another episode about this, but just to give an idea of what was your work with as you know, like at a drum clinic, at a
as I said before, as I said. We'll talk about Montreal Drum Fest because it happened every year in late October, early November, and that's when I always did a clinic tour. So whatever artist was appearing for Yamaha as a anchor on a Saturday night, which we always got, we were always the last show. I was taking an artist, and I would be moving west because we gain an hour. I made the mistake once of bringing Billy Cobham, and we started in Victoria, and we were losing an hour every. We would go from there. We'd go to Calgary, we'd go to Edmonton, go to Winnipeg, go to Ottawa. So you're losing time. So you want to try to make sure you move west, so you're gaining a little bit more time. And when you're taking a flight in Canada, it's very might be canceled, could be late. Baggage didn't arrive. Well, that's happened too many times. Anyway, so when I find that by the time I get to Montreal Drum Fest, I've already done maybe 2 other clinics with the artist. So I'm in a groove. Right?
Oh, I see.
So we get there, and on every Saturday morning, and this has been a very, very important thing for Yamaha, was our student showcase that we would do every Saturday morning. So I would have to be there on Friday afternoon because that's when they would do the basic rehearsals. The kids would come in. They'd all want to do tunes like Stratus, or they want to do Mahavishnu Orchestra, or they want to do Chicory. They all want to do a tune that's going to allow them to shine as drummers as they come from the CEGEP or the university or wherever they're coming from that particular year. And, a lot of Yamaha artists came out of that program, by the way. Effa Eterum Jr. or Josh Traeger or Eric, so.
Exactly. So the reason why we're talking is because Eric was one of those showcases back in the day. Exactly.
And I'm sorry, I'm probably missing some, but I could go on forever. Anyways, I loved that event because it got down to the heart of having these kids have an opportunity to showcase with a killer band. Julie Lamontagne and the Cats, like killing it, right? Playing some heavy stuff. But we had to be there Friday and make sure the rehearsal. Then we had to be there at, 8 o'clock. There wasn't a lot of drinking going on the Friday night. Let me put it that way, because we had to be there 8 o'clock in the morning to make sure we have 4 drum sets that we had to set up for these kids, right? 4 kits, and we had each one of them had to set up a very special configuration. They're all on rollers going in and out. And so then I had to introduce them and then get to know them a little bit better and meet their teachers. Then once that show was over, I was like, phew, because then I probably, maybe if I was, so after 2000, we were also distributing Paiste in Canada. So I also had to take care of all the Paiste artists.
Right. Okay.
And I opened the distribution with Paiste in Canada actually in 2000. So then you had, all this equipment, you had to take care of it. You had to get in a box. I have so many scars from the box staples cutting me open.
Cutting up the. Okay,
I looked like I just got out of a knife fight by the time Drum Fest was over. Okay. And we would get there, and then we would, new artist who was ending that evening. So they would sometimes have a rehearsal if they brought a band with them, like Manu always brought his band from France, right, which added a lot of cost. So we would get their rehearsals. Once that happened, the kit gets picked up by all the crew and brought to the backstage and put onto its rolling thing and mic'd up. And, the drummer, of course, still wants to mess with it. And he can't, maybe tight things. And then we go around because, I've seen drummers forget to tighten their beaters and launch them halfway across the stage.
Oh, really? Wow.
Just because they're in the mix. And when for drummers playing in front of an audience, they're the man. But when you're playing in front of 700 drummers,
exactly, it's
a completely different level because they're watching everything.
Exactly. And I was one of those kids who was like, "Oh, what's that? Oh, what? Huh? Oh, that was a little weird." Okay, yeah, and so on and so forth. Yes,
and so that there's already a great degree of stress, and we have to be very careful about how our drums sounded because you get one chance at a good impression on somebody who maybe never heard a Yamaha kit. and you want them to go, I don't know why, but that drum set sounded the best to me of the entire day. Not that, I mean, they all sound good, but they also all sound different. So you don't get a chance to compare very often. Anyways, what a beautiful event. And, you know, Ralph is such a gentleman, and God bless him for, you know, the hard work that he put into that event. We didn't always see eye to eye and everything, but I respect the man, and I respect how hard he worked to put that together, and the community that he built in Montreal. I've been to millions of drum fests. I've been to the UK Drum Fest. I've been to the Tam Tam Festival. I've been to the Modern Drummer Festival. I've been to, you know, Montreal Drum Fest is by far the best, and everyone will tell you. They're very, very organized. They're very nice. The hotel is close by. You know, it's very, they got it down very, very slick.
Very slick, yeah.
And so that, you know, then we would finish the Saturday, and usually I only had maybe one artist playing on the Sunday. So you're just there trying to take care of literally 200 pieces of product, try to put the original Yamaha heads back on from whatever they used.
Okay.
And, you know, you want to get the cymbals all back, and all the gear was generally purchased in a combination of Steve's and Ital and Archambault, and we would have to get their equipment to them. And,
which explains afterwards where you would walk into the store and be like, oh, a kit played by Manu for sale or demo or something afterwards that was on display, and you're like, oh wow, you know. Okay, so
sometimes that was advantage. Other people would just try to use it to get a better deal on it because it was used. But you know, people are always going to try to get the best price that they can.
So I understand. So basically, artist says we're coming. You're going to the dealer, Steve's, whatever. Get the kit, prepare for the artist. And there's something else you notice, as you said, is that you're sort of the buffer between the artist and the organization. Is another aspect that you of your everyday representative life.
Well, yeah, if you know, you have to take the brunt of the artist's unhappiness because you don't want them losing it on a dealer. You know, Tommy Aldrich, one time, there's a story, we were doing a clinic in Quebec City, and Tommy he's a great man, but his kid's very complex. He thinks it's simple, but it's actually very complex. And
pretty big.
The way he has it set up, it's big.
Yeah, it's pretty big.
It needs to be. And he can be very sarcastic. So we did a clinic before you, as at Montreal Drum Fest, we did a clinic in Halifax. His stick bag didn't show up. So we kept asking the hotel, did the stick bag show up? No. Did the stick bag show up? No. He goes, Sean, I need my sticks, man. I can't do the show without sticks. I went, well, we're going to have to go and choose some new sticks over at the shop. But I didn't want him going, how come you guys don't have? I said, you have any problems, you talk to me. You let me talk to the dealers because I'll be buying the sticks for you to use. Yeah. So he bought, 6 pairs. Pro Mark, so I think he was using that Pro Mark, and made sure he could twirl them. All right, these are okay. Did the clinic. We get to the hotel, and I go, did the sticks show up? They went, no, sorry. I mean, did the bag show up? They went, no. We looked. Tommy looked behind the hotel. There, the bag was right there. He goes, that's my bag. Oh, that's been here since this morning. So,
damn.
So then we get to Quebec City, and the fellow that was the rep in that particular area was so proud of himself because he put the entire kit together. He was so proud of it. Tommy, look at the kit, man. Look at it. And Tommy goes, that's really, really great. Are there any drummers here? And I'm like, whoa. He goes, you forgot to put a rug under the kit.
Oh.
He spent 2 hours setting it up and didn't put a rug under it. So we take the whole, and he was angry. Like he was really upset. But so again, you can't yell at anybody. Yell at me. He was proud of himself. He got everything at the right levels, all the right cymbals put in the right place, and the snare, like almost photographic memory level. He just kind of got too excited and didn't put a. I mean, you got to see when Tommy hits and he does all those slams where he does with chokes and stuff. Yeah, I've watched cymbals stands like literally go blowing up the stage. We had to tie everything down. He uses super heavy duty stands. Yeah. Anyways. Double Chinas. Yeah. Like double 18 and 20 inch Chinas. So that stuff can go flying. Anyway, so that was, part of being the buffer for the artist. Like he's very upset. You got to do a show and somebody's giving him, already a bad start. But he did a great show and then hung out afterwards and everybody's happy and hugging and kissing and it's all good. Yeah. At the end of the show, I'm the only person who's sweating.
You need to take some air
I
and
can't believe
go
we
to the park.
lived through that.
Well, you don't have
I,
many gray hairs, so I think that was a few in between that
yeah,
those episodes.
I'm a bit lucky there. Dave, one year at the Montreal Jazz Festival, I had Billy Cobham, Dave Weckl, and Roy Haynes all playing at the
Oh my!
same time. At the
This
same time.
really? The
So I
same
only get to
day
see
or
one. What's that?
at the same day? You mean at the
On the
same
same
artist?
day, same
Oh,
night,
really?
within 2 hours of each other.
Wow.
Okay.
Okay.
So I don't know how this happened because I was always dealing with Boîte de Musique to make sure that everything got put in the right place. Somehow, Billy's kit ended up at Dave's gig. Dave's kit ended up at Roy's gig, and Roy's kit ended up at. So I'm running up and down St. Catherine's, going from the Place des Arts to back to, and then all of a sudden some drums didn't show up, so I'm over at Archambault, and I'm like scrambling that. All three of these guys are disappointed. All three of them. And Roy, you don't know Roy. He was, I guess this was, he was 80 at the time.
Yeah, he's getting.
You don't want to, give him any kind of heart palpitations about the gig, but he's like, I can't play this. I go, no, I know you play in 18. He goes, yeah, and he doesn't like those little floaters that we used to have. Remember on the original Tour Custom Series, we have what's called a duck foot that will hold the 18 up so it's in the middle.
Great.
He doesn't play that.
Okay.
Well, it's very simple. You just remove it, and it sits right on the ground because that's the way he's been playing since 1945. What am I going to tell him?
Yeah.
Get over it? No.
He's Roy Haynes.
And I always had tools. I always had everything I needed. So Dave, he ripped me a new, what, when I finally got his drum together. He came to me afterwards and apologized. But these guys are under huge pressure, and they expect the support from the company. And although everything was done right, something can go wrong. And this was just a mix-up. And the artists aren't there. Like, they don't sit there all day. They show up an hour before gig time, and they
exactly. Yeah. And for most of us, we were hauling our own stuff and setting it up and everything. But yes, at that level, exactly, they expect to, yeah, exactly. It would have been interesting to see Roy play Billy's kit. I'm not sure
right?
It worked out
15, 13, 12, 10, 14, double bass drum, and 3 cymbals.
He's like, where are my rides? I just need 2 or 3 rides. Exactly.
I actually introduced Dave to Roy after his gig because he had never met Roy Haynes. I have a picture. I think I've posted it on Facebook, but I'll send it to you. Yeah. But after that, he was like a little kid. Oh, and also, who also was playing that night? Antonio. He was also playing that night.
Okay.
And there's a picture of me and Weckl and Antonio at the Meridian Hotel at that time afterwards, right?
Right. I think you sent me that picture, yes.
And the jams that would show up at the Meridian Hotel where all the artists are staying. And also you got like Herbie Hancock getting on stage with and just playing, and
oh my God.
Lenny White just happened to be in the room, gets up to play with him, and and it's like incredible music.
I was about to say you've witnessed some incredible stuff, my friend. My God. Wow.
I really do feel blessed, man. I don't take it for granted at all. You can't go to school for this stuff.
No,
it just happened. And I was, I liked traveling. I love traveling, and I have a analytical brain. I can think of 200 things at the same time and where they need to go and how they need to go there. That's my jam. So.
Yeah, anyways. So I was about to summarize, which you need to have an organizational way of things. You need to have sort of a calmness to yourself to be able to deal with situations like this and not yourself be all stressed out and make the artist more stressed. I mean, I hear what you're saying basically of what it was to be for 30 years, but and still you say you haven't worked a day in your life, so that's incredible. Exactly. Even though you had those situations, so it's kind of incredible.
I've shown up to clinics that were being held, and I went to the guy who was running the clinic. I said, that artist, and I'm not going to say any names here, that artist's not going to play that kit. Has he seen it? No, he's not going to play it. Why? He goes, he will never play a virgin bass drum. He wants his tom set up on the drum. He goes, how do you know? I went, trust me. And he asked this artist about it, and the artist goes, you're lucky Sean Browne was around. This clinic wouldn't be happening today.
Yeah. And again, buffered that there's no bad blood between the artists and the organization.
Nobody's angry, You have to, an instrument, drums. The thing I love about drums so much is that it's both the oldest and the youngest instrument in the world. And when I say the youngest, meaning there's no right or wrong. You want to play backwards like this, nobody can tell you it's wrong if it sounds good and it's got a cool groove. There's no correct way. You can't take a piano and play the left hand parts unless you go like this. You can't change the instrument. Whereas drums, you can do anything. You can put anything anywhere. And that is really exciting about the musicality. And everybody wants to find their edge and they do their thing. But did I just say to do that thing? Sorry about that. Everybody wants to find their edge. And that in that part of the musical group, the drummers are under a huge amount of stress when they're playing in front of drummers, because that's where they're going to get the biggest critique. And, when you said you've been to clinics, and I've been to many, many clinics, I never planned on being a professional drummer in my entire life. I love playing the drums. I play them every day because I use it as an exercise, or I use it as to reduce some friction, or it's a great way to take out frustrations. I think everybody should be playing drums. I'm so excited to hear about Annika getting the gig too with Rush. Good that's going to be for drumming and the industry. And she's perfect. I bet you Neil's looking down from heaven right now going, that's a great call.
I am the hugest Rush fan. I mean, every Rush fan will say that, but
I've had in every corner of the planet. They can't believe he's Canadian. Actually, I have to correct them sometimes. But
yes, or say Peart instead of Pert. But anyways, that's another story. But in the back of me, anyways, right there is a photograph of me setting up his kit. I got lucky one day, and somebody was like, "Do you know Rush?" And I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "Yeah, we have a kit here at the museum. We need to set up. Could you be any help?" And I'm like, "What?" And so, anyways, long story short, I've been a Rush fan, whatever. When I heard the news yesterday, 100%, as 100%, as Giddy would say, because we get to hear Rush again. We get to hear Rush again for what, 10 years or whatever.
Yeah.
And it was done with so much class, with the respect of Neil and everything. But those two guys still want to play. So, and of course, Annika's a new, sort of a new star. And like you say, it's just good for everyone, for Rush fans, for the music industry, for drummers, for younger drummers.
I first met Annika in, I believe it was in the Netherlands 10 years ago.
Okay.
And she was already a clinician and very well known in Germany. But she's that kind of a clinical drummer. She's gonna kick the crap out of it. She's got the toughest gig on the planet right now. The toughest gig of any drummer anywhere. No, Ilan gets the gig with Foo Fighters. That's gonna be a walk in the park.
For sure. I've said that to my friends. I'm both fans of both bands. I'd rather be the drummer for Foo Fighters than Rush, because at a Rush gig, it's like being at a drum clinic. Everybody's like this, and everybody's imitating the sounds, and it's so compositional. That's that music that
very
it's
much so
note
orchestrated. Yes,
that to remember all that stuff and to play perfectly with those two guys. Wow, I mean that's a feat compared to, and I don't mean this, but because I'm a fan of, just as well as I was backstage back in the day to see Taylor Hawkins at a Foo Fighters concert, and it was physical and he was pounding the crap out of it, and that's another different kind of drumming that just demands high energy level, that stuff. But it's more rock and roll, you can it's more improvised, that stuff. There's more they're two different gigs, but Rush
there's nothing groovy about a Rush gig.
Well, it depends. There's somehow we can go
nothing groovy. It's in your face rock from the word go.
Yeah,
there's textures and there's some dynamics, but it's not groovy. There's no groove.
It's not when the levee breaks. No, that's Zeppelin. It's a different kind of groove. It's a different kind of feel to it, for instance. We'll say that. Anyways, we're going off, but yes, I agree with you. That basically, yes, it's just excellent news for everyone, drumming community, everyone, and I wish her the best. And it's good news. Yeah. So, but talking just, and I want to maybe ask that question, is that difference in the 30 years you've seen, and maybe some advice for younger drummers these days, because we were talking about younger drummers of how do I get representation from Yamaha or Paiste and all that stuff? How does that work? Is that still a thing? Is that all that stuff? How has it changed since you started your retirement?
I mean, things have changed a lot, because there used to be heroes and there really aren't any heroes anymore,
Okay, interesting.
They're all passing, and they're all getting older, and, like Billy, 75, you can't run around like you used to anymore. And it's a very physical instrument. So unfortunately, your physicality, it didn't stop, Roy Haynes from playing into his 90s, but he's only going from Brooklyn into New York. He's not doing a tour and going on a 5-hour flight. So, and his, the way he plays, he still played with some degree of intensity, but not the same intensity he played with in the 50s, when he was playing with Chick Corea and the others cats. So it's physical instrument. And like, what happens when Steve Gadd and Dave Weckl and we already felt it with Neil, and we felt it, and then, we're long past Mr. Bonham, who every year on his birthday, you will know that it's his birthday. I mean, even Keith Moon, who I was never a great fan of, but I do respect his energy and respect him as a musician and what he did for music. But the fact is that heroes are disappearing, and the ones who are becoming the new heroes are kind of these, like El Estepario, amazing drummer. You've seen him, right? He do all the crazy bouncing sticks, and he sits there and and he eats a sandwich while he's doing like 250 beats per minute with his kick. But there's no music happening. It's acrobatics and it's exciting. But I'm telling you, kids, if you want an endorsement, that's kind of seeming to be where it's going right now, because they're talking about influence, right? But if you're wanting to influence somebody with being an acrobat, that's fine. But there's a lot of drummers who don't, drum companies that don't really look at that as being anything other than a brand name in your face. And you're never going to beat Ludwig with Bonham on the front. You're never going to beat Larry from U2's, the Yamaha commercial that is Rattle and Hum, or Prince, or any of the bands that played, or Michael Jackson. You're never going to beat, Charlie Watts for Gretsch. So the brands that are established, well, the same thing is happening in guitars. Everybody wants to play instruments that dead people play. So it's really difficult for new companies to get in, but it's much easier for a youngster to get a company that has not established itself as a brand as a break, because they're looking for any kind of exposure. Even if all you're doing is playing, you're the 16th band playing at a festival outdoors, but at least they can get some imagery, because it's really hard to break in. But the thing I see so many times is that this company, small company, gives this kid a break, and then that kid, the minute somebody else offers him something, he leaves, like a Pearl or a Tama or a big company. He sees that, but he becomes less important to that big company. But it's a flash in the pan, and it's an opportunity to get a new artist, because everybody's going to scramble. Like, look at Grayson Nutriman, right? I love his style. I love that trad style thing. Would I ever think of Pearl as jazz drums? Not at all.
Neither did I.
A little bit.
Yeah, neither did I.
Think of that with him in there, but he has a relationship with them. They're really good to him. They're going to take care of him, and he's one of the new superstars, in my opinion. If you are that kind of guy, like, you're going to get a lot of respect in the jazz world from drum companies, particularly if they have a jazz element. But nobody's going to know who you are. You know what I mean? Like, young kid, 9-year-old kid has no idea who you are. Like, they want to see the drummer for their favorite rock band, or their favorite hip hop band, or their favorite whatever. And the funny thing is that those drummers are now even more hidden than ever. Like, would you even know? I know, but would you happen to know who's drumming for The Weeknd right now? Right? Would you happen to know?
Yes, because I looked it up. I looked him up.
Right. So,
you put me on the spot, but yes.
You know what I'm saying? Like, it's difficult because they're kind of hidden in the background. They're not really touring with bands anymore, or Drake's drummer, or whoever. So, by the way, it's Ricky Lewis.
Okay.
That's Larnell Lewis's brother.
No way. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sick drummer.
Okay.
Great kid. I call him a kid because I'm 55, and anyway. Yeah. So, if you want to get an endorsement, first of all, get an endorsement from the product that you use. You have a much better chance if you are seen. If they look at you on your social and they see you've been playing their brand forever since you were a little kid, you've invested in them. They're going to invest in you, right? You're not just investing in them because they're giving you some free stuff, or going to put your picture in a magazine or anything. And I've had a lot of guys saying, I'm leaving Yamaha. I'm going to go because they're going to put a full spread of me on the magazines. And then I never saw it happen. And I went, you lost me and you lost them. So if you are faithful, I mean, unless that company really screws you around or really embarrasses you somehow, or spells your name wrong in an ad or, something horrible like that, stick with the company, because the longer you stick with the company, the more the company feels obligated to support and help you with that kind of stuff. Right?
Okay.
I mean, depending on how many times they go through a new artist relations guy, if somebody new comes in and they don't know you, they're going to take you for granted, right? So, unfortunately,
Okay.
and I'll say this, I've seen this happen, was a new replacement came in, he didn't make the right calls, and he, when there's a changeover, you're used to dealing with this one person. Now all of a sudden, this another person you found out took that person's gig and never even contacted you or asked you not let you know or give you that information. You've lost that artist.
Hmm.
And I can tell you, with that switchover that happened back in 2009, we lost Questlove, we lost Keith Carlock, we lost Matt Flynn from Maroon 5. Like, these are three of the hugest artists in the world because of a small, stupid ball drop.
Which again goes back to what the importance of artist relations that you were doing for all these years.
Right. It's a relationship. So, don't ask for too much. Can I get 50 sets of drum heads? You know what? You only need 20, man. Like a year. But really? Are you giving them to your friends? Are you selling them at the back door? Because I've seen that happen too.
Yeah.
Right? It's not so. Trust. If you trust the brand will trust you. But if you have to make those relative to what your exposure is. What is your influence? Right? I've had a teacher in small town Ontario who I had a mild relationship with, like an arm's length relationship through the retailer that he worked with, who I can guarantee you sold 10 times more drums than the drummer who plays for band X or whatever.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
Because every student's coming in and testing out the drums, and
you have an immediate communication with that instrument, whereas drummer for band X could be fired next week. Maybe even get told to stop putting the logo on the front of the drums because they didn't want it in the video shots in case we start to leverage you with another manufacturer. It's got to be a relationship, and it starts with, if you've always played Pearl, play Pearl. If you've always played Ludwig, play Ludwig. If you've always played Yamaha, stick with that, and your relationship will grow. And that's my biggest advice, because when you see this person has gone from 5 different drum companies, that person is poisonous.
So there's a red flag there for sure. Yeah.
Big time. You're going where the opportunities go. And so, the days of drummers getting paid a lot of money, there are some manufacturers who are still paying, and there are small manufacturers will really pay an artist with any kind, because it's an easier relationship. Hey, I gave you $30,000. What do you want from me? I gave you 30 grand. Stop calling me. I gave you a drum kit, $30,000. Leave me alone. There are companies doing that.
Really?
But that drummer is obviously more interested in that time, in that quantity of money, than they are in having a relationship.
Product,
And the minute they said, listen, we're not paying that money anymore, they're like, I'm out. And that's 90% of the time what's going on. And if you look at great companies with great artist relations that spend more money on marketing than they do on inventing new product, like, for instance, DW, just, they have such a massive artist roster. Massive.
Yeah.
Once it gets too big, you're just drummer X. You're just a number. You're just number, whatever. We gave you a drum set. What do you want from us? And when that relationship become that, then it's over. And drummers need support. They break stuff. We do.
We
break sticks. We break cymbals, which is another reason that the electronic drum industry is growing, because more people are buying electronic drums now than they are buying acoustic drums, especially entry level, because the parents don't want to hear it. But they want to know that the kid's going to put some commitment into it. If they play it long enough, well, then we'll get you an acoustic drum set. Right? But the electronic drums have destroyed cymbal sales, destroyed head sales, destroyed stick sales. And those are the things that keep drum shops in business, not drum sets. Right? It's very hard. There's a very low return on investment when a drum shop has 100 square feet, let's say, just for easy math, and 60 square feet are for the drum sets. There's no return on the investment for the amount of space that they take up compared to the things that people are coming in every day for, like
sticks and cymbals.
And now they're trying to control inventory so that they never have what somebody wants. That's the way people feel about retail now. Why do I come to your store? I should just go online. I can get anything I want online. Well, what happened to the hang? because the hang is the most important thing in the drum industry.
That's how I met my prof. That's how I met other drummers. I would go to Steve's in Ottawa. I met my prof Chuck Burrows there. He would I would pull out sticks, and I didn't know which one to take. He'd be like, "Hey, young man, you need any help with those sticks?" I'm like, "Yeah, well, these Vic Firts are nice, but there's also blah blah blah, back and forth sort of thing. Try these, yeah, for sure, yeah."
Because drum shops are going out of business all over the planet, all over the place, even in Canada too. So it's really sad to see that happening. So my second piece of advice for any kid trying to get an endorsement is have a relationship with a drum shop, because that drum shop has a relationship with all those companies.
Right.
Okay. Now I happen to, if Mr. Dave Harvey's ever watching this, he owned a store, a very cool store back in the day called Drummer's Choice. Hoggy loved this guy. And he one day told me about this youngster that's coming to his shop named Larnell Lewis. You got to check this guy out, man. I'm like, yeah? He goes, yeah, he's 19 years old. You got to really check him out. So he was doing this huge event at a church. And he was all like gospel drumming. It was a bunch of cats whose name you know too. We're all playing. I love that drum. Like, it's so exciting. It's so you're chopping. And they're all trying to one up each other too.
Yeah, that's kind of
and when one guy does a trick, the other guys, and then they all go, whoa, oh, yeah. Like, everybody's having a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And Larnell gets up there and he wants to do something completely different. So he just, with his feet, no hands. And he picks up a bass and puts a bass on him. So all of a sudden he's got a groove going with his hi-hat and kick, and he's playing this great bass line, right? And we're like, all right, this is cool. Then he reaches over and he takes a stick and he sticks it in his hand. He kind of just fashions it like this. So while he's thumbing, he's playing the backbeat on a snare while he's playing the bass. And everybody's like, oh, I went, okay, well, that's a circus trick. How can he really play? Then I heard him play with a band.
Yeah.
A year later, I had him playing at Drumfest with Paul Bouchou and Mark Helson.
Yeah.
And now he's been a Yamaha endorsee for over 20 years.
Yep. And I saw him at the Jazz Fest a couple of years ago, and nicest guy. Met him afterwards. Super, super chill. A Canadian.
Yeah, a Canadian. Yes, originally from Trinidad. St. Kitts, I think. Yes.
Yeah.
Anyways, he's just a great. He's the kind of guy that Yamaha wants. A groove cat who's not. He has no ego. This man. He's a gentle giant. And just a wonderful. I traveled the world with him. I took him all over the planet. I took him all over Europe and took him to Dubai. We did a hot air balloon ride in Johannesburg, South Africa.
Wow. Okay.
On our day off, it was just like really cool. And everywhere he goes, he inspires young people, and because of his positive attitude a relationship with a dealer, play what you've always played. Don't say, hey, listen, if you give me free stuff, I'm going to come and play your product for you. Unless that company's desperate, you will never get that door open again. Unless, of course, you get the gig with the Rolling Stones, in which case everybody's going to give you anything you want.
Yeah.
The chances of that happening, right?
So to summarize, you summarize it very well, which is basically it's the same thing as if you're playing with bands. Be on time, be cool. Good relationship, good communication.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. So interesting. So thanks.
Oh, the relationship's way more important than the chops in a band these days, right?
Yes.
Way.
For sure. Yeah. Cool, Sean. Well, we're gonna end these last. So if you have a few stories, I think I'll probably ask you an Elvin story. I think you were part of that because I saw Elvin once. He was doing a tour in Canada.
I brought him there. That was my tour in 1999.
Yeah, and Ottawa. I think it was the museum.
You brought to Ottawa. Yeah.
And my prof Chuck Burrows.
Chuck Burrows. I remember him well. God bless him.
Yeah. He's the first. Anyways, we could do a whole episode on Chuck, but he's the first. He's the first guy to look at me. He says, young man, in your career, you'll do this. And I was like, I have a career in drums. Like he opened my eyes to a lot of things. Anyways, but I saw Chuck like a kid in a candy store because his hero Elvin Jones was coming to town, and
I introduced him. I have all of Chuck's books. He got some signatures too.
Yeah, and I would go to Chuck, and it would be Elvin, posters and anyways, and Elvin comes in, and yeah, I guess I'll let you tell the story. But it was an interesting event because he was so humble. I mean, he's Elvin Jones, and he's so humble, and he's just so kind of even shy and doesn't know what to say. And so I'll let you tell the story of that event.
Yeah. Well, Elvin never really did need to say anything because he's got Keiko, and Keiko is like a pit bull.
Okay.
Keiko Jones is a pit bull. She's all over everything. She's all over you like a rash. Okay. So she's detailed. She's shining his cymbals. She is his ultimate drum tech. You don't get in her way. You make sure the gear's there and you stand back. That's it. You don't help until she calls you to help.
Okay.
Now we started that clinic tour in Montreal, and he wouldn't play on any kit. He had to have his kit. So we had to pay to ship up his jazz machine, his gold sparkle maple customs, and ship those up to Montreal. And we were, setting him up that day, and we're sitting backstage, and everybody's super excited. Like I am super excited too. And he, about 5 minutes before the gig going, Lenny from Steve's walks up with a Montreal Canadiens jersey, 99 Elvin on the back.
Yeah.
And Elvin goes, "Oh man, that's so nice." Well, we didn't expect him to pull off his shirt and put it on. And he walks out on stage. I think the standing ovation was, I think it had to have been at least 10 minutes.
Really?
People clapped for at least 10 minutes.
And that's because he had a Montreal Canadiens shirt.
Yeah, right. So I'm like, this is quite a trend. So he sits down. He's still sitting down. He's like, okay. Thank you. Still okay. Finally, he just got to play. He doesn't play with any music. He just plays Elvin Jones.
Yeah.
It's like listening to a thunderstorm. It starts in the distance. You can hear it get closer. And all of a sudden, there's a crack above you. It scares the crap out of you. And then it goes away into the distance. That's the best way to describe. If you've listened to a lot of the stuff that he did in the day and the way he was changing music. And he's a towering man, right? He was like 6'5". Big fella. Right?
When you watch the old videos of him, he's just on top of the drums and bashing them. Yeah, he's just very
what kind of guy has an 18 by 14 floor tom? Sorry, 18 by 14 kick drum, but an 18 by 16 floor tom. So he has floor tom bigger than his bass drum. Never seen another artist do that ever in my entire life. Not that means nobody does that. So that show went off fantastic. I mean, he stayed. Like, it was really hard to find a restaurant reservation at 10:30 at night on a Wednesday in Montreal. Okay, we could bring him to the Montreal pool room for some hot dogs, but I could promise you, Keiko's not going to go for it because he's got to have vegetables and she's very, and no drinking. And I'm like, okay. So, anyways, we did finally make a reservation, and he signed every single autograph. Now, when we get to Ottawa the next day, we check in at the hotel rather early because they want to get there early, and there was some construction happening, and Keiko tore a strip off of me because he has to have his nap. And I'm like, I see if we can change hotel. I don't want to change hotel. I'm like, well, I can't. Like there's ultimate frustration. You got sweating. This is Elvin Jones, right? So, so I'm in their apartment, their beautiful suite, and Elvin goes, "John, listen, Keiko's going to have a shower. I'm wondering if you can go and grab me a couple beers." I'm like, well, will that help you get a rest? Goes, "Yeah, man. Yeah." I'm like, okay. What do you like? You Heineken? I'll get you some Heineken. He goes, "Listen, knock on the door, but if Keiko answers, hide the beer or say it's yours." I'm like, okay. So I go to the liquor store, come back up, knock on the door, ice cold. He goes, perfect. He goes, all right. He goes, "Can you just slide them under the..." So I take the beers and I'm sliding them underneath the couch for him and taking the case because she didn't want him to see the case. He goes, "Get it. I'll see you at 3 o'clock. I went, okay. So I'm covertly supplying this man with alcohol against his boss's wishes. So anyways, I come up 3-2, come and collect them, this stuff. I go, "Elvin, how you doing?" He grabs me by the head, gives me a kiss right here in the middle of my forehead, like somebody pressing a donut into my head, man. And he goes, "Couldn't be better, man." Have a few cold beers and a nap, and who can't appreciate that? So we
Yeah.
go to that show that you saw in Ottawa, and sure enough, he stays and signs 750 autographs. Remember, that place was jammed to the rafters.
I think I have my ticket signed somewhere downstairs in my
Yeah.
archive somewhere. Yeah, for
And
sure.
of course, they gave him a Senators jersey, which he put on to play with me, right? Because now he went up. So then we go to Toronto. The problem with Toronto was they had 700 people show up to a place that held maybe 350 people.
No way. Interesting.
So it was 150 degrees in the room. Everybody was uncomfortable. Half the people didn't have a seat. It was a little disorganized in the setup.
Okay.
I was a little disappointed with that.
Okay.
And the PA was super weak too. So like, thankfully it was Elvin, so you could hear him at the backstage, but you couldn't hear a word he said.
Mm.
You could hear him play, but everybody was there. And again, there was like 700 people. He signed every single. He didn't sign every single autograph because some jerk off decided to ask him about his heroin addiction back in the day. Sorry, that was a mosquito. And that's when Keiko went, oh, this is over, picked up his bags and walked off.
Yeah.
So, and they gave him a Toronto jersey. I'm sure Keiko uses it as like a washcloth.
We won't go for the Maple Leafs jokes, but yes, they write themselves.
Anyway, so that was 3 days with Elvin. And then shortly after that, he came to town to record with Our Lady Peace.
Yes.
So again, he didn't want to supply drum set. He wanted to bring his own kit. So they shipped it to Yamaha, and then I brought it down to the studio. And that's when I saw, I can't remember. How can I forget a drummer? Tyler.
From Our Lady Peace?
Yeah. He just wanted one of the tunes. He just wanted Elvin to freak out at the end of it. I managed to hear it, and it was recorded at Iguana Studios here in Toronto. And anyway, so that was a nice thing. And I went out for dinner with him again that night. And those are the opportunities I had to spend with Elvin until they had him at the Groove Night at NAMM. And they presented him with a Lifetime Achievement Award. And it was a Yamaha event. So it was all Yamaha artists playing with a wicked band. Incredible players were there. It was incredible. And shortly after that, man, the cancer got caught up with him. He lost 100 pounds just watching him waste away. But one of the nicest men I ever had the pleasure of meeting and spending a few days with. And there's a few opportunities that we have a chance to meet people that you just can't believe how awesome they are. And now you know why they were so successful in their lives. You know, I mean, Elvin, he said the first thing he did in Toronto was a place called the Constellation. Okay. He just came up from the United States where black people had to go to a different bathroom. That never happened in Canada. So he was already confused about that one. There was like 3 feet of snow on the ground. He didn't have any boots.
Yeah.
And he was telling these stories. And I'm like, man, you're from a different time. You guys are from a different place, a different time. You know what got him into wanting to play drums was there was a circus one time and near his home. And he and his brother would sneak and they'd open up this little tent and they'd listen, and you saw the drumming because he just fell in love with the drumming. He just fell in love with it and got all over that. And that's
thanks for sharing. That's amazing. But yes, he was just so humble. And I remember the thing I remember most about that, and then I'll ask you a last question, is him sitting at the kit and then going, what am I going to play? And all of us went, but you're Elvin Jones. And then he stopped and he went, let me think of a tune. And he started to think of a tune. And then he started to play, and then he had the tune in his head. And I've told the story before, but yeah, an amazing moment for that. So yeah, there's so many stories. Go ahead. Yes.
Yeah, I made an Elvin Jones signature for Neil Peart.
What do you mean? Just to explain.
So Neil was investigating electronic drums back in 2000 when they came back for the Vapor Trail album. So Neil called me and he said, would you please bring down the newest generation of Yamaha electronic drums and show them to me, because I'm going to be incorporating them into the kit.
Nice.
So I went down to the studio and set the kit up like that. And he goes, oh, these don't come with mesh heads. I said, no, we can put mesh heads on them. This is the original Real Head series from Yamaha, which was killing stuff. He goes, well, I'm using all my own samplers and sounds, so I don't care about the sounds of it. And I think, Sean, I think I'm going to go with something else, which was obviously the Roland. So I went, oh, I don't do. But you know what? I really appreciate you coming and hauling all the way this down. You think maybe you could bring a few snare drums for our recording session? Okay. I'll get right on that. So I put my sample account. I brought a Manu. I brought an Elvin. I brought the new Bamboo MSD 1465 that had just come out, and ones that Paul Lime, all ones that I loved. And I put them. And there was like 12. I go, here you go. Sean, listen, you don't know me in snare drums. I'm going to spend at least 3 hours going through every one of these. So you get to choose two. You get to choose two. So I chose the 14 by 6.5 Bamboo.
Okay.
Okay. Because it was really bright and it's really compressed. So when you play, and with his ghost notes, it really projects everything very, very well. So I thought that would be good. And the Elvin Jones. He goes, okay, now why? And I told him, and Elvin is just a cannon with the wood hoops and stuff. He goes, yeah, all right, I'll give it a try. And so I took all the rest of them back, and maybe a few days later, his drum tech calls me and goes, hey, I got these things, they're tuning them in, but we took the wood hoops off of the Elvin, but we put some steel on. We're kind of like it. The next I get, these sound godlike. All of these. So I'm like, okay, good. So I did something nice. So I let Hoggy know. Now, he's Neil Peart. He's one of the richest drummers on the planet. And we don't have to give him. He'll buy them. It's like he doesn't need a gift. We're not asking him to do any promotion for us. We're not asking him to be endorsed. We're just giving him a professional courtesy, not making him go to a store. Right? So Hoggy goes, oh, okay, great. 3 days later, I get an Elvin painted in the same color as his DW kit, which was a red sunburst at that time, and a Bamboo, and both of them had Neil Peart written in the badges. I brought them to Neil.
Okay.
And he's opening these up, and he's got like a tear in his eye because no company had ever put his name up to that point on an actual drum.
Okay.
And he's like, this is great, Sean, but how do I know these are going to sound like the other ones? I went, because they're Yamahas. And he looks at me and goes, that's an excellent answer, man. So another couple of weeks goes by, and then you record the session and finish the Vapor Trails album, which, by the way, if you have, read, my name's right there in the front end.
I'll check that out.
For helping him out with that. I can imagine DW sent people to Toronto every time he was recording after that particular sequence. And so everybody's freaking out. All my compadres from all over the world are like, what, dude, what's going on? He does a list of all the Yamaha snare drums that he used. And this was in Modern Drummer, his first 2001 issue that he was in. He lists them all, the Bamboo, the Elvin.
I'll go check
because
that
he
out.
used it on most of the album. And I was just like, that was really cool, man, because he was a really sweet guy. I'm not saying I spent days and days with him, and we went motorcycling together and had lunch. He was a cool cat. And really thoughtful guy. He didn't need to do that. He gives me a call to let me know. I put a little word in for you guys in the Modern Drummer magazine. I said, you didn't have to do that, Neil. Thank you, though. Enjoy your drums. I'm sure they're in somebody's collection somewhere. This is Neil Peart Yamahas.
Yeah, I think some stuff has bubbled up these past years that they're for sale and stuff. And I think there's oh yes, that's it. This was Dave's Drum Shop has a Neil Peart the hockey one snare.
Oh right,
six of them, and there's a guy somewhere in Toronto, I believe, that has one of those. Selling it for a couple of five figures.
Sure.
Yeah, five-figure numbers there. But yeah, for sure.
That was an Elvin Jones story once removed because Neil Peart was also a very big Elvin Jones fan. So
yeah. I'm gonna have to stop there because we could go on for like so many episodes, and we both have to. I mean, you have to go enjoy your retirement eventually. But I thank you so much, Sean, for spending this time with me and telling me.
Absolutely my pleasure.
I'm sure there's so many more. So what is up for you for these upcoming years? Are you still somewhat attached to the drum community? Are you still seeing clinics or just for the fun of it? What's your
I was hoping to be able to give you a little bit more news when we had to cancel last week because of the internet issues that we were having. But I've just applied for my second international patent. Oh. And yes, I am taking my hand at engineering, and I've engineered two. When we're off camera, I'll show you a little more detail. But
okay, thank you.
I've invented something that's never been done before, and I'm hoping to change the drum industry forever.
Very cool. Well,
It's a big statement, but
that's a big statement. But I mean, given your your years with Yamaha, I'm sure that's something.
well, I gave them lots of ideas that they just said, yeah, no, yeah, no, yeah, no. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to do it then.
Interesting. Okay. Well, I will let you announce that when in due time. But
Hopefully we can do this again sometime. Anyways,
yeah.
they wouldn't get too much hate mail on your website about me. Who's that fat goof?
No, not for at all.
I'm teasing.
Not at all.
It's been a real pleasure, man. Thank you.
So thanks so much. All the best, and I wish you good luck with that. And if ever we hopefully see you at clinics or things like this in the future or something like this.
Well, you'll see me around for sure. I would probably still be in the drum industry right now, but I didn't want to leave Canada. You know, I got remarried over COVID, and I'm very, very comfortable in staying within Canada. And everybody wants you to be back in an office now, and I can't do it. So.
Yeah. And sometimes that's, you got to respect what your wishes are. And yeah. So I wish you all the best in the future endeavors. Man. So thanks so much, Sean. All the best to you, and we'll stay in touch. Maybe we'll do a part 2 of more stories down the line.
I'd love to.
I think there's more to be told here. All the best to you, Sean. Thanks so much.
All the best to you. Thank you.
Ciao.
Bye, you too.
Well, there you go. Thanks so much for sticking with us tonight. Thank you for Sean for sharing so many stories. Very gracious of him, and all the best to him and his future plans. Until then, come back next week for another episode of Drumfills Cafe. All the best to you, and take care of yourself. Ciao.